Yo, how's it going? So there's a couple of things that I wanted to show you, Qwneer, that I thought would be beneficial to you learning the mage class. There's a lot of stuff I'm not even going to bother explaining to you because one, you're new to the class and you're going to learn it in the next week anyways, and two, with your trajectory on other classes, it'd be a waste of my time to go over certain stuff. So, what I do want to talk about is maximising Fingers of Frost and how you can gain additional pseudo charges. There's circumstances where you can actually gain, even though you only have 2 charges of Fingers of Frost, you'll gain the benefit on 3 spells. Or if you're using hand-mounted pyro rockets, 4 charges almost. So, most people know about the basic shatter combo that mages do, where if a target is Frost Novad and you Frostbolt into Ice Lance, you'll gain the crit bonus on both spells, which is plus 50% crit chance. Which is great. The reason why this works is because whether or not you gain Shatter is calculated on when the spell leaves your hands. So, even though the Frostbolt hasn't hit the target that's Novad yet, the server does a spell check and says, yeah, the target's frozen, give the mage the 50% crit chance. In normal circumstances, the Frostbolt would break for Frost Nova and that's the end of your Shatter bonus, but you can do Ice Lance because Frostbolt's still travelling in the air, and since the target's still frozen when you Ice Lance, yeah, exactly. This also applies to Cone of Cold, Fire Blast, anything and everything, it's just how the spell works. You can take this further though, by replacing Ice Lance with other spells, such as Deep Freeze for example. You probably already know that, but I'm mentioning it for a very specific reason. So, in circumstances where you'd use Deep Freeze on your kill target, there is certain times when this is extremely useful for gaining a shit ton of damage. So, you see how I have 2 charges of Fingers of Frost? I'm going to use the first on Frostbolt, and then Frostbolt, and then mash Deep Freeze. And then, boom, you do your little shatters afterwards. Fantastic. So, it works under the same premise that even though you've consumed your last charge with Frostbolt, it's not consumed till it hits the target. So you can Deep Freeze afterwards. What's even more ridiculous about this is the spells don't even have to be on the same target. So let's say we've got, I don't know, a Holy Paladin doing the little pillar humping thing, and then they come into line of sight of the partner. Holy shock. In fact, let me stick a noggin on. There we go. Best shitty impression pog. So yeah, if we come out at pillar, boom, holy shock, back out. Boom, holy shock, back out. Boom, freedom, back to pillar. So, if you have charges of Fingers of Frost up, at any point you could just cancel your Frostbolt and Deep Freeze into Polymorph. If you really want to maximise damage though, or if you're just not pillar humping, there is other things that you can do. So, just to show you, I have our Paladin on the left hand side on focus. I'm going to wait till I get a Fingers of Frost charge. In fact, fuck it, there we go. 2 charges, so first charge, kill target, second charge, kill target, boom, focus Deep Freeze. So it's almost as if you have 3 charges on Deep Frost. It actually procced again a second time, which didn't help for my example, but there we go. Boom, all of them gain the spell bonus. The reason I said about hand-mounted pyro rockets is since it's off a global cooldown, this means off of Fingers of Frost, you could do Frostbolt into Ice Lance and rockets, and awful spells will be gaining the crit bonus. So if you imagine how much damage a Frostbolt times 2 and Ice Lance and hand-mounted pyro rockets do when they crit, you can basically just make people disappear. Now, I want to show you something to do with healers that gets pretty annoying as well. So, let's say that we've got our brunchity Paladin that's going to be pillar humping and stuff, or generally outside, and you're in the middle of trying to CC somebody whilst killing somebody else. On Dalaran Sewers last night, you had a bit of an issue where you knew what had happened straight away, which I was pretty impressed with, to say that it was your first night of Mage. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'll be able to show you other things from it. So you was on Dalaran Sewers, and you went close to behind the boxes to Frost Nova a Paladin into improved counterspell to successfully land Polymorph. Perfect. That were absolutely fine. Unfortunately, the problem that you'd had is you were still on global cooldown from another spell. So if I show you what happened, if this is the Holy Paladin, you imp CS and then the Frost Nova comes out afterwards. The fucking dogshit warrior from the enemy team charges you from where the fountain was, and then afterwards the imp CS had faded on the Paladin because of the reduced lockout from improved concentration aura. So Like, immediately, as soon as he charged you, he said something like, oh yeah, this dog shit warrior, man, fuck me. Like, the warrior didn't know what he'd just done. So, like, old people don't need teaching how to suck eggs, and you already know at this point now, but if you don't have a global cooldown available, do not improve CS, ever. You have to wait until the GCD is available. The reason for this and why it's so important is, especially against Holy Paladins with the reduced lockout, if you do Imp CS and Frost Nova at the same time and then that warrior charges you, you still get the polymorph. He'll still be improved counterspelled. The only issue that you have to watch out for is pummel, but then again, what warriors actually pummel on Blackrock or swap the weapon pog? So, I've shown you that with Fingers of Frost, Deep Freeze, and for the last thing, I want to talk about Deep Freeze as a method of CC. You already know that you can use it as CC, but when you actually think about what context you would use Deep Freeze in, if you play Warrior Mage Priest, Intercept shares DR with Deep Freeze. Play RMP, shares with Kidney Shot. Play with your Paladin, shared with Hammer. So, Deep Freeze on its DR table is pretty shit until you start using it for CC or for peeling somebody who's not your kill target, and if a healer's on DR for polymorph. So, the reason why this is so important is because there's going to be circumstances where either one, you don't want to use improved counterspell on the healer and you want to save it because you're going to need it for kill pressure after the CC train, or you just can't get in range for the actual Frost Nova in the first place. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to use the Pet Nova to deep freeze a healer. You already probably know how to do that, it's no biggie, but what I want to point out is your global cooldowns that you're accustomed to and the speed it takes is going to change over time based on your gear. So as a general method, I'd say I want you to spam Frostbolt and look at how far into the cast it takes before your global cooldown is fully recovered. The reason this is important is because when we have our Holy Paladin who's doing the Pillar Hump, Holy Shock, Cleanse, Freedom bullshit, as soon as this GCD ends, if at any point you see that Paladin come into line of sight to Holy Shock or anything, you can just cancel your Frostbolt and immediately deep freeze. So I'll try and give you an example. I don't usually have stop casting macroed into my deep freeze, so this may look a bit sloppy because I've been up all night, but boom, straight away, then polymorph. And it also saves your improved counterspell. Also, another thing, just for min-maxing as well, this is, it's probably not even going to matter until you get to about 2.3, 2.4, but when you polymorph after deep freeze, if you've not got a melee or someone who can interrupt you immediately, do not polymorph immediately after deep freeze. Let them sit in the deep freeze and try and get it so that they overlap as little as possible. Ideally, you want to be polymorphing just as the deep freeze ends, if you can afford to do that, because obviously it's going to give you more CC time, and with 3 polymorphs on top, or 2 polymorphs into another form of CC, counterspell kill pressure, if you manage to get lockout afterwards, is pretty much going to be a guaranteed deal. Aside from that, the only other thing that I want to show you, dude, I feel it's 100% mandatory for every single Frost Mage. I don't care if a mage has had Gladiator or Rank 1 multiple times. If they can't do this, they're fucking dog shit, and that's coming from someone who's played WoW for 10 years and never had Gladiator. So what I'm talking about is camera management, and especially to do with Cone of Cold. So there's going to be times when you're playing where obviously you need to hit W to run away from somebody, but you need to see behind you. Everybody can do this. And the reason why it's important that it has to be run forward that you use is because this allows you to Cone of Cold behind you while simultaneously still moving forward. So the way that this is going to work, I'll give you an example of what it looks like, and then I'll actually give a mechanical breakdown and explanation of how I'm doing this. So let's say I've got a Death Knight behind me, and we'll say that when I get past this training dummy, the training dummy is the Death Knight. So there we go, I'm running away from the Death Knight, Cone of Cold comes off cooldown, boom. And as you saw, the Cone of Cold animation went in front of me, even though it hit him behind. It's all to do with server stuff, but the way that we do this is basically I'm holding down W, I hold down left click, turn my camera around, and then before I Cone of Cold, I jump and continue holding down W. So if we see what this looks like, holding down W and left click, boom, I jump. Next step, we're going to press right click while we're looking behind us and then instantly hit Cone of Cold. So it should look something like this. Holding down W, turn camera around, jump click, Cone of Cold, boom. All that we have to do now, after we jump and press right click to turn around, we keep it held, and then all you have to do is turn around after you press Cone of Cold. So it'll look something like this. So we're going to hold down W, hold down left click, and then after we pass, tap right click, Cone of Cold, spin round. Practice it nice and slow at first and then speed it up, and eventually you'll get it to a point where Cone of Cold hits in front of you. It appears in front of you even though that you do it from behind. Practice it slowly first because the accuracy is more important than the speed initially. The reason why I feel like this is so important for Mage is because, one, you never stop moving the direction that you're intending to, and two, it's a very easy thing to do mechanically once you've practiced it. I do see some mages where they do this shit, where they hold down left click and right click, jump, spin around, and then do Cone of Cold again. I find that extremely inconsistent, and especially if you're in the heat of the moment, it's very easy to fuck up with your sensitivity. If you're already looking behind you, you just have to jump, right click, cone, turn, piece of piss. I might do a slower video on that, doing a breakdown if anybody needs it, but that's all I can think of at the moment. I don't want this video to be any longer, but I'm most likely going to do several more parts. I hope this is useful for you, mate, and if you have any questions, you've got me on Discord. Much love and peace out.